What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love and Marriage DC Season 2, Episode 5, Street Fighters. So we start off where we left off last week, which was Brittany's intervention. That's what I call it, Brittany's intervention. So Brittany, the eldest daughter of Irena and Jamie, basically was holding a family meeting where she wanted Big Jamie and Little Jamie to address their issues, which was a really good idea that she did that. So Jamie gets really emotional when he's talking to his son because he does. I mean, there's no question, there's no doubt that Jamie loves his son. Obviously, he does, and he wants the best for little Jamie. But Jamie's delivery of it just is, it's not landing with little Jamie at all. So Jamie gets emotional talking to his son because, you know, he wants his son to do better. And Irena brings up how little Jamie would send her these long text messages basically saying that he felt like he didn't want to be around anymore. So when she said that, they talked about how they probably need to go see a therapist. Big Jamie brings up, we need to go see a counselor. Now, little Jamie declined. He did not want to see a counselor. He gets up and he walks away. So they follow him and they're talking to him. And little Jamie thought that the counselor was just for him and his issues. And little Jamie absolutely hates it when his family points out his shortcomings and all the things that he's not doing right, because he feels like he's always being picked on for all the wrong things that he does and that nobody really acknowledges the things that he does right. So when they brought up this whole counseling thing, he felt like it was just for him to go to counseling to address his issues. And so the family explains to him, no, it's not just for you, it's for all of us to attend and get therapy. So then he was more inclined to do so. So he will definitely be seeing, they will definitely be seeing a therapist. Moving on from there, Ashley. So Ashley is having a conversation with her husband, Quick, and they're talking about her book. He says her book is really, really good. And also they talk about the fact that the city is going to be naming a street after him in his old neighborhood. So they've got that coming up. And then Ashley mentions, or one of them mentions, their son, Antonio, their 14-year-old son, Antonio, being suspended from school for getting into a fight. So Quick was like, well, why didn't you tell me that our son got suspended? And Ashley said, well, he got suspended for fighting, but he was just trying to get back his jacket. This other boy took the jacket from him and he was just trying to reclaim his property. Then they got into a fight. So I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I don't think that the suspension is justified. And I'm like, okay, girl, we understand that, but you should still make sure that Quick knows what's going on with his son and that his son, got suspended from school. So Quick calls down his son and he tries to explain to his son that, there's other ways to resolve issues and it doesn't always have to lead to a fight. And then Quick compares his parenting style with Jamie's parenting style and says that at least he's there for his son when his son, is exhibiting questionable behavior, getting into fights, getting suspended. He's trying to nip that in the bud as soon as possible. And then he says, whereas with Big Jamie and Little Jamie, when Little Jamie was getting in trouble, there was nobody there to talk to him. And I'm like, how do you know that, Quick, that there was nobody there to talk to Little Jamie when he was getting in trouble when he was younger? That was a pretty bold statement to say that, the parents had an opportunity to try to steer Little Jamie into the right direction, but they just declined to do so. And that's why he's at where he's at now. I thought that was a very bold statement, and I hope he can back it up if he gets questioned about that later. Moving on to Joy. So Joy decides to meet up with Sherelle because of the information that Irena had given to Sherelle. The information that that Irena had given to Sherelle about what Joy told her. So Sherelle wants to confront Joy about it. And so basically Sherelle was like, it came to me from Irena that you refer to my husband as being shady and my husband is not shady. And Joy said, well, first of all, if you're trying to talk about things that Irena told you coming from me, shouldn't Irena be here as well? Well, Sherelle ain't got time for that. So Joy was like, okay, I never called your husband shady. So then she explains the things that Black did that did not sit well with Joy. She talks about how in their group Mambo Sauce, everybody was an original member, right? But two of the original members ended up leaving the group. And so two new members replaced them. When the new members came into Mambo Sauce, the group was doing extremely well. Their success was taken off. And for whatever reason, Black no longer wanted the two members in the group, the two new members in the group. He wanted to get rid of the new members and bring back the original members that had left the group. And so he gave the group an ultimatum. He says, look, if the two old members don't come back, I'm leaving the group. And so that's one of the reasons why Joy felt like Black was not making the best decisions for the group as a whole. He was only making decisions that would benefit him in some way. Now, how this would benefit him, I don't know, but somehow or another, this is what Black wanted, and he gave the group an ultimatum. Either you're going to bring back the originals or I'm leaving. So that didn't sit well with Joy, and I guess this led to the demise of Mambo Sauce. And so Sherelle is extremely protective of her husband, and she says, one thing that my husband is not is shady. My husband is not a shady businessman at all. And I don't appreciate you saying that. And once again, Joy says, I never called your husband shady, okay? But he did do things that was not in the best interest of the group. Moving on from there. So now we have Jamie and little Jamie. They go see the therapist, and the therapist, patiently listens to both sides. And they talk about the fight that they had, the really bad fight that almost led to them getting physical with one another. And the counselor said, well, to Jamie, the father, he says, your approach, maybe you need to tweak it a little bit. How you approach your son and how you speak to your son, you might need to kind of change that. It's a little bit rough around the edges, so you need to find a different way to communicate with him that's going to be effective for both of y'all. And then with little Jamie, they talk about how possibly he likes to blame other people for him not being where he's supposed to be at, like his dad not paying his ticket and blah, blah, blah. And maybe he feels like his parents aren't doing quite enough for him. And the counselor said, the only thing that is standing in your way of you being successful is you. So you need to take responsibility, take ownership of, the things that you do or the lack thereof. And you need to, just be more accountable of yourself and where your life is headed. So then the subject of little Jamie harming himself comes up. And at this point, the counselor wanted to talk to little Jamie one-on-one. So big Jamie leaves the room, and the counselor and little Jamie are talking. And the counselor reiterates to little Jamie that you are important. You deserve to be here. You're worth it. You're a valuable person. You should never feel like you don't deserve to be here. And you have everything that it takes to be successful. And he even tells little Jamie that it's because of young men like you that I went into counseling. Because I guess, seeing too many young men just give up on life, it affected him. It made him feel some kind of way. So he decided to go into counseling to help counsel and direct young men into becoming the best people they can possibly be, etc. So everything went fine. It went so well that little Jamie, that the counselor even told little Jamie, I'm going to give you my number. If you ever need to reach out, I'll be here for you. So it went really, really, really well. And at the end of it all, little Jamie was actually grateful that he went through with the counseling, because at first he was really opposed to it. Moving on from there, Quick's street naming event. So everybody shows up except for Winter, and I'm assuming that Winter wasn't invited. So everybody's there. Even the mayor of DC shows up. He gives a speech, and Quick gets up there. He gives a speech as well. He acknowledges his deceased parents and how he really wished his mom and dad were there to see where he is now in life. And he got really emotional. His grandmother got emotional. It was a really beautiful speech. And so after that, we're supposed to be commiserating, having a good time, celebrating DJ Quick. But instead, Sherelle decides that this is the right time to confront Irena. So she approaches Irena and basically tells her, hey, I had a meeting with Joy, and Joy says that she never called my husband shady, so I don't understand why you're going around calling my husband shady. And so then Irena had said, Sherelle was like, shady is a really effed up word. I don't want that associated with my husband. So then Irena said, shady is what describes your husband. And Sherelle was like, you said what now? And so Irena said, Joy said that your husband was unethical and untrustworthy. And that's the definition of being shady. And that's what your husband was doing. So at the end of the day, your husband was being shady. And so Sherelle was like, well, I don't care about none of that. My issue was the word that she used to describe my husband. So her whole thing, it wasn't that Joy was saying negative things about her husband. It wasn't that Irena was saying negative things about Black. Her whole thing was that Irena called her husband shady. She does not like the word shady because that's not what her husband is. And so that was her whole issue. And so Irena was like, okay, girl, shady means ABCD. And your husband was doing ABCD. Therefore, logic would tell you that your husband is shady. Sherelle didn't like that. They're going back and forth. Quick tries to intervene. Ashley has to step in as like, step aside. I got this. So she tries to calm them down. Nothing's going to calm these two women down. And so Irena was like, it's really stupid that you're getting hung up on a word. And it's not even about the word. It's about the fact that your husband was doing unethical, untrustworthy things. Who cares whether or not I use the word shady or not? And those words came from Joy. Joy was the one that described your husband in this manner, that he was unethical. Joy said this about your husband. And so Joy was like, I ain't got nothing to do with this. I don't even agree with this whole conversation taking place here and now because we're supposed to be celebrating Quick. This is not the time for any of these shenanigans. And so I'm sitting there watching this and I'm like, I was totally on Irena's side because Sherelle, it doesn't matter what word Irena used. Joy is the one that said that your husband was up to no good. That means nothing at all to you. That Joy is the one that said that your husband was doing these underhanded things that led to the breakup of a group that was headed towards success. None of that matters to you, Sherelle, except the fact that Irena used the word shady, which tells me that you got a problem with Irena, not the word shady. You have some type of issue with Irena, and hopefully we'll soon find out what that is. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.